Remember the Fucking Face podcast coming at you from Kilani Jewellery. This is Akram Kilani and our beautiful guest, Jordana.
Remember the fucking face.
I love you, girl. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate you for waiting. This is insane. Now, you've asked me, what is this podcast was about? What is the message? And I'm here to tell you that this message strictly for the young youth and the people that actually watches us and admires everything that we do in life. And you're such an inspiration because watching your account, watching your Instagram, it gives me the chance to understand the law in some ways with your educational videos that you keep dropping. And at the same time, your friendship has made a statement in my life. So I appreciate you. I want you to let us know, who the heck is Jordana? Who are you?
It's a great question. So what I do and what most people know me for is being a criminal defense lawyer. I've had my own practice now since 2010, based out of Toronto, but operating all over the province. But I feel like I'm far more than that. I'm someone who has come up from absolutely nothing. My teenage years were marred by times in group homes, institutions, arrests, street life, all fueled by very, very serious drug addiction. I struggled significantly throughout my teens and then even in my early 20s, and didn't actually come out of that life fully until I was in my first semester of law school and had to really find my way. When I got into my second year of law school and knew that I was going to complete that journey and start my path into this legal education, I promised myself that if I could figure out how to be successful, I would talk about the life that I had lived. Because back then, we're talking 2005, nobody was talking openly about addiction and mental health, and none of these things mattered. In fact, there was such stigma attached to these things that everybody stayed quiet. And so my promise to myself was that I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to show people if I can figure it out, anyone can figure it out, and try to motivate people to get out of that life, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't lead to anywhere that anyone truly wants to be.
Now, I understand that your teenage time was a struggle. There was drugs involved in your life. There was arrest. You know, like your life was upside down. Is your family home is a broken home? Let's say single home. That's where it started. That's how you was led into the streets, or how did it start? Like, how did you leave home and get yourself into trouble? And how did you get yourself out of the trouble and start to think about, oh, I need to go to a law school? Like, this is a big thing, because coming out of an addiction, leaving the streets, a lot of times people are confused where to go or where to be. But you had an option. Now, how did it happen? Did you have a broken home when you left home as a child? And how did you get yourself out of trouble?
Yeah, so I definitely had a broken home. My dad left when I was 2. My parents divorced when I was 5. My mom was amazing. I had one of those mothers that just like wanted to be incredible and have her hands in everything, but she had to work. Things didn't come easy in life. I was her only child. She had some health issues going on. So it was certainly a struggle. I think the biggest problem for me was that I was used as a weapon in my parents' divorce. And so I was getting all of these mixed signals. And again, we're going back to like the early 80s. Divorce wasn't something we often talked about in school. So I was going to school and seeing all of these like nuclear families. Everybody seems happy, healthy, well-to-do. And that just wasn't my experience. I couldn't make anything stick there. And so I just struggled emotionally. I was an only child, didn't have anyone to really turn to. And so I turned everything inwards. And that for me was really like the manifestation of my troubles, because I didn't know how to ask for help and how to cope with anything. So I started coping in very negative ways early on in life. I was 12 years old, fell into, just different behaviors that were certainly self-sabotaging. Drugs were a very, very easy escape for me. My mom tried to get me help at 14 years old, sent me into a group home that she thought was actually going to help me. It ended up hurting me. I was there for 21 months. And as soon as I came out, I was unmanageable, unruly, incorrigible. And that was really the stepping stone to street life for me. So I left school, I left home, I left everything at 17 years old because I was so firmly entrenched in drug life.
Wow. Can I ask you something?
Of course,
I know exactly what you're going there. So you went to rehab for 21 months, you said?
No, I was in a group home. So the day after I turned 14, my mom sent me to a group home facility called Youthdale, thinking that they were going to help address all of these underlying issues that she couldn't seem to help me with. And so after 21 months in Youthdale...
Wait. This is the main focus for me right now. So they send you to a group home.
Yep.
And this group home is funded by the government.
Not only is it funded by the government, but the child psychiatrists in this group home who are feeding children antidepressants, antipsychotics, tranquilizers are all on Ontario's Sunshine List. Each one of the psychiatrists who work for Youthdale are earning 6 figures a year to give medicine to children and then release them back into society.
Okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
What's the minimum age actually in this group homes?
So I was there with kids as young as 10 years old.
And they were feeding them medications for depression. And
depression,
that is
anxiety.
out of this control because no one, our society, Canada has one of the best unique people, and the population in Toronto has grown so fast and dramatically in the past 10 years that made so much pressure go on the group homes, on the governments to be able to accommodate all these issues. And depression is one of the biggest problem right now after COVID that's happening to so many people from young to adult. And having to go to a facility where it's supposed to bring you up in life, take you out of your depression, lead you, show you the path, has become a way of feeding medication and promoting different companies in the medicine world, I believe. Because I've been through depression 2008, I remember. I was talking to myself. I even thought people in front of me, when they're speaking, they're talking on me if I can't overhear them.
Right.
And that depression led me into going crazy within my own ways, And I decided to go to a doctor. And I said to myself, I got to get help because I can't be talking to myself to this limit. And I remember Dr. Low. He's an Asian doctor, one amazing guy that I went to. I spent a whole year talking to him. What this guy did to me, he put a mirror on the desk facing me. So every time I'm talking to him about my story, I'll be looking at myself as I'm telling the story. I remember on the first visit, I tried to move this mirror, and he lost his mind. He was like, listen, buddy, if you're coming in here trying to get help, moving this mirror is not going to help you in any way. Bring it back exactly where I put it and keep talking to me. I didn't understand what was the technique or the target behind it. But that mirror bothered me because I can see myself talking. And what the mirror did to me, it made me realize when I'm lying to the doctor about my situation, it shows me that I'm lying to myself now.
Wow.
So he helped me, and it became a point where I'm able to talk to anybody with 10 mirrors in my face, and I know I got the full confidence on how to speak on myself. Now, the rehab facilities that there is funded by the government, I believe it's only an access for more medication to be fed to the people instead of actually education, taking them out of the depression, showing them how to be able to have the confidence and build themselves. How do you feel after leaving the group home? How did you feel about yourself? And how did you switch? Because you said you left from there and you become a druggie.
Yeah, so I became a drug addict in the facility, quite frankly, because I still wasn't comfortable talking to these strangers. I didn't know who they were. There was so much changeover among the staff. You don't develop trust with anybody. And so after the first year, I had to still find a way to cope and make my way through the system following their rules. And so I didn't have issues in school. They sent me to a normal public school called Eastdale Collegiate at Broadview and Gerrard. And from a kid from Richmond Hill, this was a complete culture shock. I had to, thank God, I have great friends that took me in and like taught me sort of the social norms and rules of a world that I wasn't familiar with. But I was able to access drugs while I was at school. And so every day, all day long, I would smoke weed, go to class, still do okay because I was a great student, and go back to the rehab and play the game. It wasn't even rehab, it was this group home, and play this game of Utah, following their rules, whatever they wanted from me, the things they expected me to do and say in order to get out. And so fast forward 6 months later, I get out after being there for 18 months. The first year, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was just fumbling to try to figure my way. The hardest part for me was, I grew up as an only child in a family where everybody went to work. So I was a latchkey kid. I don't know if you know what that is from the 80s. I don't know if people still use that, but I had a key to get in my house. When I finished school, I had to go home by myself, whatever. Like I didn't have issues around that. And now I go into a facility where I can't even cross the street to buy myself a pop if I wanted it. You were on complete lockdown. And so at 14 years old, I had no freedom to come and go. I couldn't have friends. I couldn't use the phone. I couldn't speak to people. There was no social life. I was always on the school's basketball teams, baseball teams, volleyball teams, very athletic. Couldn't do any of that. So everything that had been an outlet for me and any attempt to deal emotionally was completely stifled. And so the first year I really struggled. Then I figured out if I smoke weed during the day, I can go back and play the game at night. And so when they threw me out back home into the same environment I had come from, same school I had come from, same places I had been, all I knew was that if I smoke weed throughout the day, I'm going to be okay. And I can change the way that I'm feeling by using substances to control my emotions. And that became my biggest crutch in life. And already I'm, 15 years old. And so it didn't take long once they let me out for me to discover other drugs. I got into the rave scene very young. I was 16 years old. And by 17 years old, I'm heavily, heavily, heavily addicted to cocaine.
What year when you started to think about going to law school? How did why did you choose that path?
So I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. My stepfather had been arrested and wrongfully accused of a crime when I was young. I was 7 or 8 years old. And so we watched him go through the system. I watched him go through the system, watched the system play out. And I remember how important the lawyer was. I didn't even understand what a lawyer did. I just knew that when the lawyer called our house, everybody shut up. When there was a meeting with the lawyer, it didn't matter what else was happening. That took precedent. And as a kid, I was like, I want to be that important. I want that voice. I want to be able to help people the way this human called the lawyer was helping our family, and the way that we depended on this person and needed this person. And I wanted to be able to give back to that, especially after, my stepfather was exonerated and everything was cleared. And I was like, I want that.
What year?
I was a kid. I was 7, 8 years old.
No, but what year? So now this is when you were 7.
1987.
Yeah, so that was your beginning thinking to be a lawyer when you were young.
Correct. And
so when you left, because I want to catch a story, because I have so much to tell you. I want to get to know what year on your age time you started to think, I want to go study law.
So for sure when I was 7 or 8, then I'm on the streets and I don't think I can be anything. Then I get off the streets. I got to go back to high school at 20 years old. I graduate high school at 21.
Oh, so you went to high school after all
I had to.
That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I dropped out of high school at 17. So at 20 years old, I had to go back and finish high school.
Oh, you're stunning. Okay, so high school at 20, and then you have to collect all your credits to make sure that you can actually succeed to get into law school, because it's very tough to get in.
Well, I had to do an undergrad degree first. So you don't get to go right into law school. So I had to graduate high school first. So I sober up at 19 years old, 20 years old. I start pulling out some of my, missing credits from grade 9, 10, 11. And then I have to do a program called the Ontario Academic Credits, which was the equivalent of grade 13. I start that at 20 years old. 21, I'm like, I got to do something more than this. I always knew I needed to make money. I don't come from a family of money. I don't have a trust fund. I didn't want to depend on a man, so I wasn't going to marry into money. And I just knew that I needed an education to make money, because I didn't want to go to jail and I didn't want to depend on anybody for my finances.
I love you. Come. That's a very favorite person. Sorry, Jordana.
All good.
She's so amazing. She's my second guest. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, let's continue.
So I just knew that I needed to go to school. And so at the end of high school, now at 21 years old, I apply to university. I get an entrance scholarship to York University, and I liked philosophy. So I studied philosophy not knowing that it was a great precursor to law. For me, it was just what I enjoyed and what I would actually be able to do. And so I spent 4 years studying philosophy, and in my last year, I knew I needed to do something after that. And I didn't think I could be a lawyer still. I thought that my history was going to prevent me from going to law school. But I thought, fuck it, if I don't apply and see what happens, then I'll never know, right? Like, the worst that can happen is I apply to law school and I don't get in. Well, okay, so at least I know that I made that effort and tried to chase my childhood dream, put my applications out. At the same time, I applied to do my master's degree in philosophy. I got a full scholarship into the mastership program if I wanted it at University of Guelph. At the same time, Osgoode Hall Law School offered me a place to start the following September.
Now, this is one of the greatest stories, starting from a broken home to the streets at the age of 6, 7, going into being a drug addict at the age of 15 at a group home, and now you have unlocked the most toughest thing for any human being to do, which is control yourself, be able to get your achievement, and to be able to build off of that. Your achievement now is your graduate. You graduated fully. You have your own law firm. Now, what was the toughest case you ever held as a lawyer in the courts of law?
Toughest in the sense of dealing with the client, toughest in the sense of subject matter.
Subject matter.
I think the most difficult case for me to navigate as far as the subject matter is I had a client charged with first-degree murder. He had ordered a prostitute to his house and spent 3 hours beating her to death with his bare hands.
Well, that's a very tough one. I'm getting goosebumps over that.
That was the hardest for me personally to navigate.
I wish you told me about that moment, because I would actually took myself to jail that day just to beat the fuck out of him. Yeah. That's it. That's all I'd say. Because I like rock and rolling with these motherfuckers, you know?
Yeah.
The most important thing in life is to have a woman in life. Because like I always tell people, human beings are busy loving animals. I'm busy loving humans. And to get to this level, you always need a man and a woman to continue this journey. And a lot of things right now, it took a very long time for womankind to fight for their rights. And until today, women are fighting for their rights. Would you take yourself into that moment and you fight for the rights of women when it comes down to assaults, aggression, family matters? How do you look at it like that? Because you know how women have always been fighting for rights. And when it comes to that, a lot of times men, they feel like they got the upper hand to do whatever they want to a woman just because.
So, I mean, oftentimes, physically, men do have the upper hand because physically they're built in such a way that if they want to act violently and aggressively, they can. And many women can't physically, they don't have the strength to fight back. I think for me, my fight for women has been in being successful in a male-dominated world, for sure. Mentoring women. I have an entire staff of women that work for me. I have always done what I can to be an example that we don't need to necessarily be physically strong to stand up for ourselves. I'm 5'2". You could knock me out in a heartbeat. There's no question.
Every time I hug you, I squeeze easy.
It doesn't matter how many boxing lessons I take a week. If you wanted to, you could crush me. But I think that when a woman holds herself and her power in such a way, it scares men off. And they don't act physically aggressive. They don't see you as being weak or lesser than. So that when I walk in to an event or a room that's mostly male dominated, when I walk into, any sort of space that's traditionally male, I feel no way. I don't feel like I don't belong because I've worked and done the work on myself to know that we're equals. I've worked just as hard as you've worked. I've built what, in my own terms, what I have in order to be able to be on the stage with you.
You are on the best stage ever right now in Toronto, all right? This is, remember, the fucking Face podcast. Don't fucking forget. How do you treat people? Like, how do you treat your client? Do you treat do you take them different from case to case? Or do you focus on certain cases and let other people focus on other cases? How do you look at all your clients coming into the firm?
So all phone calls, all consultations are filtered through by me, which people are really surprised by. They call my line. They're not expecting to speak to me. They're expecting to speak to a secretary. But I want to have a first conversation with everyone. I want to know what you're charged with, what city you're charged in, a little bit about the case, and how you interact with me. Because you can tell in a 5-minute phone call if it's going to be a good working relationship or it's not. And so, if someone's an asshole, I don't care who you know and how much money you have. I don't want to represent you because most of my cases are taking a long time, 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's a long-term relationship. And so if we can't have an open dialogue and good communication, then there's no point in getting started. That said, I also only focus on certain cases. So I only take cases involving drug trafficking, firearms, homicide offenses, serious crimes of violence. So if someone calls me, for example, and they're charged with a sexual assault, I send it away. If they're charged with fraud, I send it away. So I have other lawyers that I know and I refer the work to, but it's work that I don't want to do. So I'm very particular in the type of cases I take and the clientele I have. That said,
you're an artist.
Once someone agrees to retain me and we start that process, I treat all my clients the same. I don't care what you're charged with, who you come from, how many followers you have on Instagram. I think that everyone who is my client deserves the same fight, the same level of respect. It's a mutual respect. I respect the life that they're living. I'm not there to tell people to make different choices. I'm not there to be a social worker. I'm not there to be a counselor and teach life skills. I am here to defend your case. I'm not here to judge you as a person.
Sick. Now, I know we talked about it, but I'm going to hit it. I want you to hit it big. How do you see snitching? In a case, somebody snitches. Does it help them in a court of law? Or does it destroy? Like, does snitching really work?
So, snitching is the backbone of all criminal investigations involving street level crimes. And I know that not because I know which one of my clients snitch or don't snitch, but the majority of my clients who have been charged with drug or gun or gang related charges, their case is the result of the police getting confidential information from a snitch and starting their investigation.
Yeah, because I always say, like, when the police comes, how would they know out of these 100 doors, that door is the door that has the drug case?
Well, they've been investigating that door for, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 2 months, sometimes it's 2 years. The police have access to so much technology right now to help them in their investigation. It's unbelievable. But what it starts with often is a snitch who says, John Smith down the street is selling fentanyl, so don't arrest me for the fentanyl that you just found in my backpack.
And does that work?
Yeah, it does. And so the police will say, okay, give me a name and I'll let you go.
Whoa.
So if it's small amounts of drugs that that's what it starts with, right? It starts with users. They arrest a user. No drug user wants to be in a cell. They want to be out using. And okay, tell me who your dealer is. And then they go and they find that low-level dealer who's selling in, a couple points here and there they don't care about. Cops don't care about a couple of points, a couple of grams. Tell me who your back end is. And then they go and arrest the back end. Tell me who your back end is. And that's how they move up the chain. And that's how they know which of the 100 doors they're supposed to kick in because they've worked their way up through the hierarchy of drug trafficking.
Have you had a case with snitching in it? How did you see it? How did you work it out? Like
I said, most of my cases, that's how it starts, but I don't know who the snitch is. I've had one case where a client said to me, he was charged with a series of armed robberies and said, listen, I gave up 4 people. I'm not supposed to even be charged. And I was like, oh, you should not be telling me this. This is not good. And it turns out he gave up 4 of his friends who were all my clients already.
Oh my God.
and he wanted me to
my
use
God,
his
I'm getting
snitching
goosebumps.
to get him a lower sentence because he was promised he wouldn't even be charged. The cops didn't care. The cops took the information and still charged him with a series of armed robberies.
Fuck boy.
And so I had to go to the Crown and say, listen, you got to speak to your OIC here. My client gave up 4 of his buddies. They're now facing serious charges, and I knew that because I was representing them. And he wants a deal, and Crown gave him a deal. Was it the deal that the police promised? No, they were supposed to let him go, and
so
he ended up in the
basically,
pen.
We tell everybody, don't fucking snitch. Keep your mouth shut. Wait on your turn. Wait on your turn. If you're already in trouble, you got a long way to go to settle this in. You can't settle everything all in one day. So
For me, the worst is people that snitch on themselves. That's something I can't even understand. How many of my cases fall apart not because of anything the police have discovered in their investigation, but the brilliant work, and I use that term loosely, of the investigator who's doing the interrogation, and the client admits that he's in a certain place, or he admits to certain criminal antecedents, or he admits that he has that outfit that this armed robber happened to be wearing. Like,
so basically, it is. Do not. You have the right to stay silent
shut the fuck up.
and let your attorney take the fucking job.
Yes.
Shutting the fuck up is a very tough thing for a lot of people.
It is.
And for the young people not been through it, they might see it differently now. Have you won a murder case?
Yes.
Have you ever thought of anticipating in a rape charge?
Do I represent people
No.
charged with rape?
Have you thought of anticipating in a rape charge? There's a
What do you
difference. So, have a rape charge came to you and you thought about anticipating in it? Or did you ever fight a rape charge?
No.
Good job. This is exactly right.
No. I had, when I worked for a firm, because before I had my own firm, I worked for a firm for 5 years. And I remember my boss gave me a file that was a horrific rape.
Disgusting.
I gave it back to him. I said,
Sick.
I can't. This is,
Nobody
I
should
don't
fucking,
do this.
Nobody should fucking carry a fucking
Yeah.
job or case like this.
No, I have lawyers that I refer work to, so I don't take on impaired cases, I don't take on fraud cases, and I don't take on any sexual-based offenses.
Like, knowing who the fuck you are and knowing the level that you have brought yourself into, driving McLaren, living life, lavish life, having to own nice stuff, that didn't just happen. That came in with hard work and a lot of struggles and day and nights, sleepless nights that got you to this level now. The chakuch is a symbol of strength. Build your own, be your own. This is the slogan behind the chakuch. And this meaning comes to, when you work throughout your life to become who you are, and you finally find yourself that you become who you are, you've collected all your achievements, your success story has come together. That's when you treat yourself with a symbol of strength. The chakuch is to represent that achievement, that success story. Having to wear Kilani jewelry on you, how does it make you feel? Like when I first met you and we designed the fuck you ring together, you came into me and you're like, I want to have a fuck you ring. How does it feel after you slip that ring on your finger?
So, as you know, I came in to you after a relationship had exploded, and I said to you, I want to take this ring that my ex had given me with a 3-carat stone in it, and I want to create something insane. And you said to me, pick 3 words to describe the ring. You didn't ask me about a design, you didn't ask me about what you wanted to look like. Give me an emotional reaction to the ring.
True story.
And I told you freedom, independence, and strength. That's what I wanted the ring to represent, was the ability of me to look after me and to do something completely outrageous for myself because I can. And that's what I feel every time I put the ring on. You created something to reflect those emotions, And those emotions are in this ring that I put it on. And when anyone sees it, when I'm out and talking, and I mean, it's a behemoth of a ring. And whenever I see it, everyone says the same thing. That is stunning. It is just such a symbol of success, but not just success in my business, success in myself. And that to me is the most important part, because you can be successful in business and be a miserable fucking human being. But when you come forward and you want to see other people succeed and you want to be a good human and you just want to show love and respect to the world and the people around you, that's true success.
Fucked up. Freedom, independent,
Strength.
These are sick words. I love that. You know, woman, you have proven yourself to me through this relationship that you got a heart made out of a diamond, strong like a diamond, unbreakable, untouchable, and so inspirational.
Thank you.
Your story has touched me in many different ways. And remember the Fucking Face podcast? There's a reason for it. There are so many young youth are admiring us today and wishing to have what we have. And I tell everybody, luck is not everything. A chance is everything you count on. You might have your chances starts at the beginning of your life. Your chance might come in the middle time of your life when you're struggling. Maybe the chance will come to you on the last day of your life. But you never give up. You always work towards success. Don't lie to yourself. Don't fool yourself. Make sure you be consistent in the work that you want to be in. And being consistent brings you all the achievements and success. Once you receive this, you'll be able to collect your fruits. It's like planting a tree or a little plant. Starts with you planting, adding soil, giving it water, talking to the plant, staring at it every day, growing. This is what happens to me. And as it keeps growing, it will give you flowers, it will give you fruits. And the more you look after that plant, it could continue to more people after you. And they will always collect your fruits. How do you see this as a success story?
Like my own success story?
Yeah, how do you see yourself in this success story?
Oh, I agree. I mean, people look at me now and, oh, it must be nice, and oh, you're so lucky. This isn't luck. I've been a lawyer since 2008. I've been working in criminal defense since 2010. So we're going, I'm heading into my 15th year of hard work. And I still work hard. I still don't stop. I'm still answering calls well into the night. I'm still working on the weekends to prepare for cases that I have during the day. I'm still putting that effort in. So I don't think you get to ever sit back and rest on your laurels, because once you start looking after that tree, the tree dies. You still have to look after it. And so it still continues. For me, I think the biggest part of my success was not taking my struggle and succeeding despite what I've been through in life, but because of what I've been through in life. And that to me has been the most important lesson for me, right? When I built my law firm, I didn't know successful business people. I knew drug dealers and I knew pimps. And that's the world I grew up in as, a teenage girl on the streets. That became my business model for my law firm in 2015.
You turned the table around. You are extremely successful. You have a very strong social media presence. Jordana, how do you let people find you? Can you please give them information of your Instagram, your social media, and your full name?
Certainly. So full name is Jordana Goldlist. Handle on Instagram and TikTok is Jordana Goldlist. If you Google Jordana Goldlist, it will take you to my website, which is jhgcriminallaw.com, where all of my phone numbers, emails, social media platforms are available to me. So super easy to find. And anyone looking for a little more information on my background can look at my TED Talk, which is called Who Judges the Judge.
Who judges the judge?
Yes.
This is something I didn't speak on. How did you come with this slogan? Who judges the judge?
So back in the early days of social media, I was big on Twitter. And I didn't want to necessarily just put out, my random thoughts during the day, because a lot of them need some context and there's, not enough room on a tweet. And so what I started doing was tweeting different stories about injustice in the courts, injustice in policing, police brutality cases, illegal arrests. I started sharing that with people who were following me, and the only thing I would put in the caption is hashtag who judges the judge.
Who judges the judge?
Who judges the judge? And so it was calling into question the system itself as opposed to any one participant, but showing how the system itself is broken. And we, honor and respect people because of their titles, and some people just aren't worthy of that honor or respect. And so it caught on, and so people started, seeing me out and they'd say, oh, who judges the judge? Who judges the judge? So similarly, don't forget this fucking face.
Yeah.
That's when people see you, they call it out. And so that became a moniker for me. And so fast forward to 2018, I was putting together this TED Talk, and that was just me. That was my brand, was who judges the judge. And I wanted to talk about how we as a society show respect for people because of their titles, and we don't take the time to find out what their character is. Because I knew police that didn't deserve any respect, judges who didn't deserve respect, lawyers who didn't deserve respect, but clients who were so hardworking and so honest and so loyal, but their criminal record prevented them from moving forward in life. And it was like, you have the character of someone who deserves so much respect in life, and yet you have this one piece of paper that's holding you back. And I wanted to expose that.
Who judges the judge? Jordana Goldlist. I love you. Remember the fucking face podcast coming at you right from the heart of Toronto. Kilani Jewellery, baby. Right here in the patio. My girl, you already know. Don't fucking forget the face. And remember, this fucking face podcast is never gonna go nowhere. I love you. I appreciate your time. This is incredible. Thank you so much.
I love you. Thank you for having me on. Remember this fucking face.
Remember the fucking face.
Good?
You're so fucking amazing. Like,